Solve two-step equations. Okay, we've done this before, and let's just a reminder here. The most important thing is to do the math and leave no doubt. Write it out. Get the math on the paper. Don't use your head to remember everything that's going on. That's not the point. The point is to let your mind think about the problem. Let the paper do the memory portion of it. So let's solve a two-step equation. Here it's a two-step equation. We got 2 plus 3x equals 20. This is only switched around one thing, but as we identify these things, this is about checking to see what's what. I've got a positive 2, a positive 3x, and a positive 20. Let's try to get this down to x equals something. So I've got 2 and 20. Let's subtract 2 from both sides. That 2 is positive out there because it has no sign on it, giving us 3x equals 18. Now we want that x to be 1, or that x to have a coefficient of 1. So to do that, we're going to divide by 3. If we divide by 3 on both sides, we get x equals 6. Not the toughest problem in the world. Really, the challenge here, the 8th grade challenge here, would be to look at this 2 out front and make sure you remember that is a positive 2, so that you are subtracting 2 from both sides. Now, of course, we have an answer. Let's check the answer. Take the 6. We're going to put it back in for the 3. Let's do the answer in green. That gives me the check in green. That's 2 plus 3 times 6 equals 20. 2 plus 18 equals 20. 20 does equal 20, and that answer checks. That is the right value that makes that equation true. Okay, let's take it up a notch from there. That's just kind of your training wheels. Like, hey, don't forget how to do this. Let's go to something like this. Let's get a rational coefficient in this because that's what we've been working on. 1/2 y plus 7. Now, move the variable to the right side, doesn't matter. Have something that we like to call the answer on the left side, doesn't matter. Everything we do is going to be exactly the same. So don't try to flip this back and forth. Just work with it the way that it is. So first step is the same thing we did last time. Let's try to get y by itself. And to do that, let's start by subtracting 7 from both sides. So minus 7 and minus 7. That's going to leave me 1/2 y over there. And then over here, I've got a negative 3 and a negative 7. Now, I don't want to talk about them in terms of like adding or subtracting. What I want to talk about them in terms of is this. If we have 3 negatives and we put them together with, I have to put my, let's see if I can get my thumb up too. There's 5. And I have 7 other negatives, 3 negatives and 7 negatives. When those two meet, what we end up is 10 negatives. So don't worry about adding and subtracting. Just think about combining those forces there. So now I have negative 3 and negative 7, and together they make negative 10. Now we have a rational coefficient with y. We want that value to be 1, so we need to multiply this by the reciprocal. And if we do it to that side, we must do it to this side because that's how equations work. They have to stay in balance. 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 over 2 leaves us 1y. 2 times negative 10 then is negative 20. So we get y equals negative 20. Do you believe it? Well, you can prove it to yourself. So let's do the check. Y equals negative 20. Let's go and try this brown here. Negative 3 equals 1/2 times negative 20 plus 7. Let's multiply here first, distribute that 1/2 to that. So I get negative 3 equals negative 10 plus 7. Now I got negative 3 equals, now when these two go together, I have 10 negatives and 7 positives. So how many more do we have? Which do we have more of? We have more negatives. How many more negatives do we have than positive? We have 3 more negatives than positives, which means negative 3 equals negative 3. And that, oh boy, and that checks. That was better. Let's hit peak performance now. I've got negative 22 is equal to negative 3x plus 2. No different than the things we're doing. Variables on the right side, doesn't matter. We have a single constant on the left side, doesn't matter. Everything we do is going to be the exact same thing we've done before. Just make sure that we're identifying it thoughtfully. We're not just looking at it and making choices because out of habit. So when we look at this, let's get that -2 to the other side. So the 0 pair here, I haven't mentioned that yet, 0 pair. What number with +2 will make 0, because that's what we want over there. So I'm even going to write that out this time. So I have +2, -2 gives me 0. Plus -3x equals, all right, my -2's got to be here also. So I have -22 and -2, and when I put those together, when I combine those two values, that gives me 24 negatives. All right, now we know +0 by this time is just 0, so we don't have to have that. I wrote that there just to make sure that you see what happens with a 0 pair. Now, we have -3x, so let's divide by -3. Not -3x. So I wrote -3x. We don't want to do that. We're dividing by -3 because the negative divided by a negative gives us a positive. So that's going to leave us x here at the end. And if I'm dividing by -3 on this side, I need to divide by -3 on this side. Sign matters here. So we have a negative divided by a negative. 2 negatives means we're going to have a positive. There are 8 -3's in -24, so that's +8. All right. We've got this value. Do you believe it? We can check it. Let's just check it real quick. It's not going to take that much work. -22 equals -3 times 8 plus 2. -22 equals, this is do the math right here, -24 plus 2. This is write it out right here. -22 equals -24 and a +2, and we cram those together. There are more negatives than positives. How many more negatives are there? There are 22 more negatives, -22, and that checks. Let's go to the vocab real quick. Vocabulary, vocabulary, because there's only one thing, vocab, write it real fast, and that is two-step equation. That's the only thing I got for this one. Two-step equation is an equation with two operations. So if I say 2x plus 1 equals 7, there are two operations happening here. That's why it's 2 steps. One operation is this addition right here. Uh-oh, Brown, you're losing it. Is the addition right here. Let's try green. Is the addition right here. The other operation is that multiplication between 2 and x. That's what makes a two-step equation. Okay, guys, good luck.